that today with the media and the way social media is going, and it's also to try it out on your own and build a business. I think you can learn more from building a business in a year, and I have personally from going into university for my first 3 years. So that's something that I would recommend anyone to take those steps and do.
One of the things that you say in your blog is that it's not so much what you know, but who you know, and that most opportunities come from the people who you surround yourself with. But can't that also be a case for going to college? A lot of the greatest opportunities that I've had come from friendships that were forged with like-minded people at university.
I totally agree with that. And my first 3 years of being in university is not comparable whatsoever. And I don't think I would be anywhere where I am today, even without having those first 3 years of going into university. I like to see university as meeting those social connections, and then learning how to learn in a lot of cases, so that you can take whatever you're going to be, whatever challenges that you're going to have, you now learn how to learn, so you can apply those experiences and accelerate your learning in whatever you do. Now, that said, I don't think my greatest objection to the article that I read, that I wrote, is that formal education, where you're sitting in a lecture hall for 3 hours and you're reading through a textbook that is outdated for about decades, is not exactly the best place to learn, because online courses and different universities are putting out great courses where it's very interactive, and learning, you can pretty much learn anything online these days. And my greatest objection is, one, is the way formal education, educating people, is that the right way to do it? And two, I think more people should be able to take risks and believe less what is there in the media, because I think there's a lot of statistics out there. There's one great one that James Altucher points out, and they do a comparison of people that have went to college or university and people that have dropped out or never got into university, and they do a comparison for them, in the next 5 or 10 years. And they obviously, the study comes out that people that went to university have a successful career and a higher financial income. But what's interesting that James points out is that the study is done by Georgetown University. So of course, Georgetown University is going to be promoting the fact that going to college is going to lead to a better and more successful career. So it's interesting, because I think the way studies are actually skewed can be mispercepting to a lot of people watching. So, I think what they should have done is taken the smartest people around the world at our age and taken, let's say Harvard students, for example, and taken a segment of Harvard students that have all been qualified to get in, and forcing another segment to drop out that are equally as smart, and then comparing them 5 to 10 years later and seeing what kind of career success they've had in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, also studies like that just don't adjust for class and socioeconomics and so on. The grouping of people who are likeliest to go to college are also just happen to be the grouping of people who are likely to end up earning a lot of money in the future, just because they come from a class and a socioeconomic stratum that is a privileged one. So, I mean, it's a cause and effect thing. I totally take your point. Well, we could blabber all day, but you probably want to go out to Buenos Aires and eat some delicious food and go swimming. So, Sean, thanks for being on HuffPost Live. Great to talk to you, mate.
Thank you so much, Josh. Thanks again.
To read Sean's entire blog, you can click on the link in our resource well below. Stay tuned. Plenty more coming up right here on HuffPost Live.
More business executives are taking the time to practice mindfulness, but instead of waiting until the stress levels are high and workloads are overwhelming, the best mindfulness techniques might be implemented more easily if they're learned in business school. That's why NYU Stern School of Business has partnered with the Institute of Mindful Leadership to launch the Mindfulness in Business initiative. And joining me now to discuss are Caitlin Weaver, the Director of Leadership Development at New York University's Stern School of Business, and Janice Martirano, Executive Director of the Institute for Mindful Leadership and author of the international best-selling book, Finding the Space to Lead. So, ladies, thank you very much for joining me today. And Janice, we know you're a pivotal force when it comes to teaching mindfulness. So how did this partnership with NYU Stern School happen?
Well, I'm delighted to be here, first of all. And our partnership went back a few months ago, and Caitlin and I began to talk about what might be possible. And I'm delighted that we developed a way for us to work together on a pretty long-term basis, and we've begun with a workshop, and we'll be doing a mini course and then a full semester course in 2015.
So why do you think it's so important, Janice, that this be something that is started at schools?
You know, I think it's important at all levels, but when business schools can introduce this ability to train the mind in a way that integrates development of leadership excellence at the same time that we are learning how to know more about ourselves, how to be more focused, and how to embody more compassion, that's beginning on the right foot before the burnout happens, before the reactivity becomes a conditioned reflex in the work world, in the workplace.
So, I mean, you know, Caitlin, Janice talking about compassion there probably seems a bit anathema to anybody watching and thinking, wait, business schools, compassion? That just seems like a misnomer. So why did the Stern School decide to partner with the Institute?
Well, I think for us, it's been critical to have the right partner for this. As you mentioned, you know, there is a certain language that we use in business, and compassion often isn't part of that. And so working with someone like Janice, who has extensive experience doing this in the corporate world, and really tying the key principles of mindful leadership back to case studies and things that our students can relate to. And it's interesting what you say about compassion and what Janice said about burnout, because you know, our students are really practicing their burnout now for the rest of their careers. And I think we're starting with a language around self-compassion. So how can you take some moments for yourself, some purposeful pauses, as Janice calls them, that are really going to have a positive impact on you and the people around you? And the reaction here from students has been overwhelmingly positive. I think they really resonate with the language that Janice uses around this topic.
Yeah, I mean, one of the students who's participating in the program is a second-year NYU MBA student, Lauren Stoneberg, wrote a HuffPost blog about her experience so far, and she said, quote, "For students frequently pressured by peer comparison, demanding schedules, and the always popular, 'what do you want to do with your life?' inquiry, I see the Mindfulness in Business initiative playing a natural role in the future of business education. Among the tools we should have at our disposal upon graduation is the ability to respond to stimuli with thoughtfulness instead of blind reactivity. This capability can only gain value as life and work continue to increase in complexity." So, you know, Janice, first of all, what do you think of what the student had to say there?
Well, I think it's very insightful. They're already recognizing that there's more than the short-term goal. And in fact, in all of the decades that I was in the workplace and in senior roles, what became most nourishing for people, what they felt best about, were the times when they could find that what I call a win-win-win. So the choices that the organization made, or that particular leader made, that was not only good for the organization and good for the employees, but it was also in some way contributing to the community itself. And so those win-win-win opportunities are very much tied to what do you want to do with your life. It's not going to be very fulfilling for most people if the answer to that, or what they're left with, because they haven't taken time to reflect on what will nourish me, what will get me inspired, what will get me excited to go to work every day. It's got to be something more than a bottom line. And it's possible to do both. The bottom line's really important. And of course it is, because the organizations and the jobs for people are important aspects of it. But if we become less reactive, and we're able to use this training and this cultivation of a new form of leadership, an expansion of leadership, to a place where we're giving as much weight to the contribution to society, making sure that the organization supports employees, and keeping in mind that bottom line, that ability to keep the organization healthy, that is possible today.
And that's interesting. You say it's possible today. I mean, you were a vice president at General Mills, so you have a more than a composite business pedigree to be talking about this. But, you know, has that kind of mindset, the mantra of the business world, shifted slightly from when you were a VP at General Mills? I mean, was the emphasis on the bottom line a little bit more prominent then than it is today? Has mindfulness kind of already started taking hold a little bit?
I think so. I think it was always something that great leaders wanted to do. I truly have seen that in many